All right, here we are. Let's ask ChatGPT a great question. I want to think exactly how to word this. Okay, after careful consideration, here is the prompt that I have generated for ChatGPT to help me beat the Bloodmoon expansion. I want to beat the Bloodmoon expansion for the game TES3 Morrowind. Morrowind was released on May 1st, 2002, and this expansion was released on June 3rd, 2003. I know the game pretty well, but I want you to explain it to me like I have never played a video game before. Please break the playthrough up into clear sections, including 2 sections before I make my way to the island of Solstein. The first of the 2 sections being character creation, including what race I should choose for my character, as well as what attributes, skills, and birth sign I should pick for my character. The second of the 2, and remember that once I leave Vardenfell, I will not return until Bloodmoon is completed. If I am instructed to use any item that I can only get on Vardenfell, I will have to start over completely. The rest of the sections that follow these 2 sections should outline the rest of the major quests in the expansion. Please break these sections into simple steps for me to follow. Compile these numbered sections into a list called the plan. I may use the terms parts when I mean sections, when asking to move to the next section of gameplay. Let's start with the first section. Ready? And let's see what it spits out for me. Perfect, I'm ready. Thanks, AI. Let's go through this. We have the plan, that's good. They're sectioning it out. Part 1 is character creation. Step 2, preparation of Vardenfell. Part 3, arrival on Solstheim, traveling to the island in first encounters. Fort Frostmoth quests, the Skull Village and trials, and the werewolf threat. Hircine's hunt. This looks all pretty right so far. Let's see how it leads me through here. Character creation. Think of this like designing the body and mind of your hero, the person who will live through Morrowind's challenges. Since you said to assume I've never played a video game before, we'll go step by step and explain everything simply. That's exactly what I was asking for. So step 1, understanding the basics. In Morrowind, your character has 3 main aspects. Your race determines your character's appearance and natural abilities. The attributes are the core stats that measure my character's natural strengths. Skills are specific abilities like sword fighting, sneaking, or spellcasting. Birth sign is a magical star sign that grants unique powers or bonuses. Step 2, choosing a race. For Bloodmoon, you'll face cold weather, tough melee combat, and werewolves. That means durability, stamina, and the ability to fight up close are essential. Recommended race, Nords. Okay, well why? It says here Nords are native to Solstheim's frozen north. They have a natural resistance to frost, which is useful against local enemies, strong in melee combat, and can wear heavy armor effectively. That's great. Step 3, choose a class or make a custom one. We'll make a custom class here called Frost Warden, built for survival, melee, and some utility magic. Long blade, heavy armor, block, restoration, athletics is my major skills. Then my minor skills can be armorer, marksman, alteration, speechcraft, and security. I mean, honestly, I would probably pick most of these. Instead of taking alteration and security, I would probably just focus on alteration and then just take something other than security, but that's fine. This is probably going to be good enough. Step 4, attributes. Each character has 8 attributes. You'll pick 2 of them to specialize in that will grow faster than the rest. Sort of true. I'll take it though. Best choices, strength and endurance. Also, again, that is probably what I'd pick. Birth sign. You can think of this as your character's constellation, granting unique bonuses, and the best choice is going to be the warrior. Boosts strength and endurance, reinforcing your combat and durability. This isn't true. This is what they changed it to do in Oblivion. In Morrowind, being born under the sign of the warrior only gives you a fortify to your attack, which makes it so you hit more frequently. It is very useful early game, but that's going to kind of taper off once I start gaining power. Once my long blade is high enough, then it doesn't really matter if my attack is being fortified because my natural attacks are going to hit good. Step 6, name and gender. These are cosmetic choices and don't affect gameplay significantly. Okay, I just want to give it a little clarification here. I want to ask it if I should pick male or female. I want to give it the opportunity to tell me one or the other. If it doesn't tell me, I'll make the option myself, because it does say it doesn't matter, and I want it to pick a name for the character as well. So let's go ahead and run that. It does want us to be a male Nord, and I am going to be Bjorn Frostbearer. Perfect. So we have Bjorn Frostbearer, the male Nord. He's going to be the custom class called Frost Warden. Born under the sign of the warrior, with favored attributes strength and endurance. Major skills are going to be Longblade, Heavy Armor, Block, Restoration, and Athletics. Minor skills will be Armorer, Marksman, Alteration, Speechcraft, and Security. Okay, sounds pretty great. Let's run with that. I'm just going to simply ask it to continue to the next section. Perfect. Bjorn Frostbear is ready to begin his journey. Before we brave Solstheim's frozen wilderness, we must prepare carefully. Once you leave Vardenfell, the main island of Morrowind, you will not return until the Bloodmoon expansion is complete, so this preparation phase is critical. Yes, it is. Finish the opening sequence, follow the guard's instructions until you're free to explore, loot the census office carefully, check for small valuables like candles, bowls, and paper to sell. Be respectful. Stealing is risky this early on. Okay, so it doesn't want me to steal, that's fine. Talk to Fargoth and complete his little ring quest. It gives you early reputation and gold. I can do that. Buy or find basic gear. If you can, grab a long blade from Arel's trade house. Buy or find iron or steel armor, any you can afford. Get a few restore health potions. Tip, don't worry about being perfect. We'll soon gather much better equipment. Get to Balmora. Once in Balmora, visit Caius Cosades. Don't waste time completing the main quest. Great. What I'm going to do then, because it does say complete some of the quests if you feel like it, what I'll do is I'll tell Caius that I want his duties, and then he'll give me money to go train. So he'll just give me 200 money. Visit the Fighters Guild or the Imperial Legion. These groups suit Bjorn's skills and offer early combat training and equipment. Join one of them, optional but not necessary. Well, the Imperial Legion, I have to head all the way to Nissus in order to join it, so I think I'll just join the Fighters Guild. It does say to just join all three of their early things as well. Do early guild or town quests, clear bandit caves, hunt creatures, and collect ingredients. Complete 2 to 3 quests per town in Balmora, Aldron, and Vivec. Here's some key tips it's giving. Prioritize quests and loot that give gold and skill points simultaneously, kills, minor dungeons, or fetch missions. Avoid long, multi-step quests with rare or one-time items. We want efficiency, not risk. Don't rely on Solstheim shops early. Assume everything must be brought up front. That's a really good thing to say, because you can't reliably find a lot of things in Solstheim. There are 2 shops in Solstheim that actually have some things, and one of them isn't built until you're done with Raven Rock, but I don't think we're going to do Raven Rock at all. I think we're going to skip straight to Skull. I'll do the quests for Fighters Guild, and I'll do a couple temple quests too, just because they're usually pretty easy and they get decent rewards, and then I'll work on gearing up. Train key skills when I can. Longblade, Heavy Armor, and Restoration are priorities. Aim to reach level 5 to 7 before leaving Vardenfell. I'll be strong enough to survive Solstheim's dangers without over-leveling, which can make werewolves too strong later. I got into a bit of an argument with the AI program about how getting level ups works in Morrowind. It seemed to think that you needed to get 10 level ups in either your major skills or your minor skills, not between the two. So it kept giving me sample levels where I was getting 15 major minor skill increases and then telling me to go for that. But it's not how leveling up works in Morrowind, and I eventually figured a couple things out. Okay, I like looking at this better. It's telling me it wants me to increase my strength by 30, my endurance by 30, my speed by 15, and my willpower by 15. I am going to assume that the computer is getting confused with the third column. It looks at the first 2 columns and then completely forgets about them before it goes to the third one. I think that's what's happening here. That's my best explanation for what's going on, because it really seems to understand which skills are my major skills, which ones are my minor skills, and which ones are my missed skills. But it doesn't understand that I can only get a total of 10 level ups between both my major skills and my minor skills before I take a level. Okay, I need a little bit of clarification. I want to know exactly what quests it wants me to do. Before I go into Section 3, what early quests should I complete for Section 2? I'll need enough resources to buy quality gear and potions before leaving. Sell loot regularly. Good traders include Revere in Balmora and Clagius Clanler? I don't know if that's a real person. Maybe they're the owner of the Razor Hole. Let me check on that. I have finished getting my character ready to go. I want to make sure that there's nothing else the computer wants me to get. I'm going to tell it what gear I have, what my approximate levels are, like the important ones like long blade and heavy armor, and see if there's anything else I should do. Okay, I have reached level 7. My long blade and heavy armor skills have both reached skill level 55. I have a set of Dwemer armor, except for the helm, which is an iron helm. My shield is also an enchanted bone mold shield with a restore health on use effect, so I opted to keep that over the Dwemer shield. I also have a silver longsword as recommended. In my travels, I found a ring of mark and held onto it. I have a total of 11,000 gold pieces on my character, which is a bit over what was suggested. Before I move on to the next section, is there anything else I should get? Please make a checklist showing items and spells I should obtain before leaving Solstheim. Include where to find these items as well. Last call. So it wants me to find a Dwemer helm to complete my my set. It wants me to bring a silver claymore or steel longsword as a second weapon. I'm going to ignore this just because I know pretty early on I'm going to be able to get a silver longsword with a paralysis enchantment on it. I should bring some restore health, restore fatigue, cure disease, fortify strength, resist frost. I don't need these because I'm immune to frost. Spells. It wants me to buy recall, divine intervention, water walking, water breathing, open spell, restore fatigue. So it wants me to make an amulet that gives me restore fatigue. Okay. Amulet of recall. I have a ring of recall, or a ring of mark, so it does say to buy an amulet of recall. I will tell it now. Let's move on to section 3. Okay, so it's telling me how to get to Solstheim and giving me the first few things to do. So I need to go to Cool, then take my passage to Solstheim, get to Fort Frostmoth, and we need to talk to Captain Carius and start the main quest. So I need to do the missing supply ship. Yeah. At this point, I think it's just telling me to follow Captain Carius's orders. It's possible that the AI is getting its wires crossed because I'm pretty sure this missing supply ship is either the first or second quest for the Raven Rock side portion of Solstheim because it itself is another smaller mainline quest. I just want it to get me through the portion with the skull and all that. So I'm going to gently remind it that this might be for the Raven Rock quest and not for Captain Carius's quests. In 3.4, you claim Captain Carius wants us to find a missing supply ship. When I spoke to him, the first objective I was given was to find out morale is so low in Fort Frostmoth. Please double check the quest line that Captain Falx Carius gives and update section 3. There we go. Acquire any bottle of liquor such as Sujama, Flynn, Mott's, Grief, Sheen, or Cyrodiil brandy. I need to find a bottle of liquor, then find a guard and talk to them about a dry fort while I have liquor in my inventory, and the guard will open up about the dissatisfaction due to the missing alcohol shipments. He will ask me to speak to the priest at the Imperial Cult Shrine at the fort, and I have to unlock a desk, and there's a stash of liquor there. Then I can confront him and get my reward. This next part, I didn't capture what the AI was telling me to do very well, and I really just followed my journal. The only thing the AI told me to do was find the smugglers that have been taking the weapons and kill them all. I interpreted that as taking the character that was better at fighting with me so that I could clear out the smugglers' lair. Their hideout isn't too far away from Fort Frostmoth, and the fights here were very difficult. This one is sped up because it was really difficult. He killed me in about 3 hits. I tried to use one of the stronger silver swords from a previous NPC that I defeated, but orcs resist magic a lot of the time, so they would just ignore being paralyzed. And if you hit an enemy with a paralysis effect and then they resist it on the next hit, then they just become unparalyzed, which is really bad, as you might imagine. The final fight was actually a lot easier because this was my first attempt and it went very smoothly. But with all that done, you return to Fort Frostmoth and find it in ruin. The AI was quick to point out you just need to talk to the person that you didn't take with you. They'll give you a skull of a skull warrior and they'll send you over to the skull village to see if they can help. Great wooden gate into the Skull Village. I don't remember seeing one of those, but I could be wrong. Speak to Tharston Heartfang. Empire has disturbed the balance of the island's nature. Skull Test of Loyalty. I need to go do these little things at the stones. Perfect. I set my Ring of Mark. I put the mark at the Skull Village because the Fort Frostmoth has Imperial Cult Shrine, so I can just Divine Intervention there. And none of them were elaborated on. A lot of the small quest descriptions were very wrong as well. I'll just let it sit here for a second if you want to pause to see what it says. But none of these tasks are impossible to do for me at this level. I'm glad that I defeated the Reeklings fighting the bear pretty quickly. The Greedy Man's Bag just had a lot of ads. The Tree Stone was also really difficult because the 5 Spriggans around the Reekling that has the seed were not easy to deal with. I started just trying to pull a few at a time. I also rested in the cave that the Sunstone quest takes you to, and it put all of the enemies on top of me, which, well, that was exciting. I definitely died here. The Earthstone was another one that was pretty easy. I managed to actually get the music thing correct on my first try. Then when everything's done, you just head back to the Skull Village and talk to Tharston Heartfang again. Tharston is telling me that I need to prove my wisdom, so there's one more test. I'm going to ask it about that. I just told the computer Tharston gave me a task of wisdom when I returned after finishing the Nature Stone mini-quests. He said that I need to solve a crime that has occurred in the Skull Village. Well, let's talk about that. Skull Test of Wisdom, also known as the Skull Test of Wisdom, the Ritual of the Mead Hall, or the Skull Test of Wisdom, the Murder of Rigmor Halfhand. I think Rigmor Halfhand was murdered. This part was where the AI started to unravel a little bit. It was absolutely convinced that one of the NPCs murdered Rigmor Halfhand. Eventually just had to force it and tell it exactly what Tharston told me. I'm just straight up telling it, please try again. The crime reported was not a murder, it was a theft. Engar Icemane has been accused of stealing furs from Rigmor Halfhand. Okay, theft usually doesn't happen here. We need to investigate it as a test of wisdom. Engar Icemane has been accused of stealing valuable furs from Rigmor Halfhand's home. Engar denies the theft. Tharston has confined Engar to his house while you investigate. When you talk to Engar, he will firmly maintain his innocence, but he'll mention that somebody may be trying to frame him. Don't know why anyone would want to frame Engar. You talk to all the people in the village, and they all seem to think he's a very honorable fellow, other than Rigmor. Rigmor is convinced that Engar is a sketchy person, that he doesn't pull his weight, and Risi, Engar's wife, is very quiet on all of this. It took a really long time to force the computer to get this because it just kept saying that, oh, the Reeklings stole the hides and you can find them, but you can't actually do that. I had to go find the note, and I just told the AI that I found it by accident. And then it was like, oh, good job, you found the secret behind it, and that's why Risi didn't want to talk about anything. You know, I just kind of had to resort to spoon-feeding the AI information. Whatever, job's done. I go back to Tharston, and he tells me that now I need to prove my strength to the skull. Finishing the test of wisdom, it thinks the next step is to siege Castle Karstag. That is not true. I have been asked to prove my strength to the skull at Lake Fjelding, so I'm going to just send that and see what the AI says. Ritual of the Warrior, Lake Fjelding, the frozen lake that burns. This is actually one of the markers of the Bloodmoon prophecy, if I remember right. I need to find Aeslip's cave. I'll encounter an undead Draugr lord and skeletons defending the ancient tombs. There I'll meet Aeslip's spirit, the ghost of a long-dead Nord necromancer. When I speak to him, he'll tell me he's been fighting to contain a great fiery evil buried beneath the ice, Daedric corruption seeping up from below. It's not quite right here. It's not a great fiery evil, it's a great frozen evil, but semantics, we're kind of close. I also know that Aeslip just dies when we get to the end. When we kill all the Frost Daedra, he'll just say, thanks for helping, you've done the world a great service, or whatever he says, and then he just falls over dead, and you can take his ring. Okay, that bit is done. Let's move on to the next. I just told it next. Peace is a moment between storms. The storm arrives in the form of an old crisis. Frost giants in Castle Karstag? What? Yeah, the computer thinks that you assault Castle Karstag and fight frost giants. I have no idea where it pulled this information from. I'm just going to tell it that when I arrived back in the Skull Village, it was under attack by werewolves. What's going on? When you return from Castle Karstag and approach... Okay, it's just confused. Sure, I need to fight alongside the skull. Great. And I should stay near groups of skull warriors because they help me manage enemies. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to let a werewolf or a couple werewolves kill a skull warrior. I want to get their armor because their armor is super, super good. If I can get a full set of Nordic armor, I think it would help me a lot. So I fight the werewolves. When the battle is over, I speak to Tharstan. I think he's going to be gone, but the exact next spot says the disappearance of Tharstan Heartfang, because I think he just vanishes, and that's okay. I can talk to Korst after that, as it says here. There's also a thematic note here, the Bloodmoon and my character here. From a story perspective, this marks a change in tone. Until now, Bjorn was an outsider seeking acceptance, but from this point forward, he is a hero caught between the mortal world and Hircine's realm. After the battle for the Skull Village, Tharstan is captured by werewolves and vanishes. Due to the fighting, I've been infected with Sanius lupinus, a magical disease that turns mortals into werewolves under the Blood Moon. If left untreated for 3 in-game days, I will fully transform into a werewolf, and once this happens, I can't reverse it without console commands. For my character, Bjorn Frostbearer, who has followed the Skull traditions of loyalty, wisdom, and strength, the champion of the Skull fits his narrative best. It does think I should cure the disease. After I've cured myself and returned to normal, speak to Korst Windeye in the Skull Village. I need to go find the Totem of Claw and Fang, I guess. Cave is a rimhole. I don't think that's true, but it's okay. I'll just follow my journal. I'm just going to follow my journal because that's going to be correct. But this is a little bit... It's starting to get a little bit off kilter, but at least it seems like the order for the quests is right. I told the AI, I just gave Korst the Totem of Claw and Fang, and he told me I need to meet someone by Lake Fjelding to participate in what he called the Ristag, some kind of ceremonial hunt. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to see what it spits out. The Ristag, also called the Ritual Hunt, is both a spiritual rite and a critical turning point in the Skull storyline. It's where Bjorn Frostbearer proves his unity with the island's spirits, but as you'll see, the ritual does not go as planned. Meeting the Ristag party, I need to go see Rolf Longtooth on the northern shore. Hunt for the spirit bear. That sounds right. I need to go kill a white bear. And just as we're about to succeed, we're going to get attacked by werewolves. Computer's only a little bit wrong here. You don't really have to fight the werewolves while you fight the spirit bear, but it also thinks that you fail the hunt. You just go back to Korst and let him know that your companions died during the hunt, and he's surprised. I'm being told to go to Castle Karstag now, so I think I can just move on to the next section. Now we can come to the Dark Heart of Bloodmoon. The rituals have failed and the Bloodmoon burns red above Solstheim, and the Skull's old ally Tharstan Heartfang has vanished into the wilderness. The time has come for Bjorn Frostbearer to uncover the truth and face the corruption that has spread from within the Skull's own ranks. Ooh. Alright, after the Restog, return to Korst. I did that. He listens gravely to my account of the failed ritual. It didn't fail. I still did get the thing, but most of my allies did die. He did not tell me that Tharstan was alive beneath Castle Karstag, but he did want me to go investigate Castle Karstag because there are a bunch of dead Horkers. The directions that the AI was giving from here on out were even more scattered and nonsensical. It kept talking about there being frost giants there. I think it was getting the frost giants and the Grawl confused, and it was just kind of using the terms interchangeably. You run into Krish, who wants you to help him kill all the Grawl in the cave. I think there's like a dozen of them or something like that. Maybe 8. Somewhere in that range. But I went the wrong way and fell down, and Krish got stuck somewhere else, and, well, he died. Couldn't get into the throne room from there, so I had to reload, which was about 20 minutes ago. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do that all again. Get through successfully, talk to Dulk this time, but he also doesn't know what happened to the Horkers. So we'll go back to Korst and let him know. Alright, I did not find Tharstan in Castle Karstag, just like I thought, but I did report back to Korst after I found out what was going on with all the dead Horkers, and when I went to rest, I was abducted by werewolves. So I will let the AI know and see what they say. The AI was convinced that Hircine's realm was very different, but I convinced it that it was a Daedric ruin and not a moonlit field. The Daedric ruin is trapped, heavily patrolled, and populated by Hircine's minions. Okay, I need to locate and defeat Hircine's lieutenants. I think what it really means is the other people that Hircine picked for the hunt, which is fine. I teamed up with both of the NPCs that you can. Normally, Falx is going to die here pretty quickly, but canonically he survives, so I kept save scumming to make sure that he lived because he's a cool guy. You can also side with Tharstan, which I didn't actually know you could do. Usually, I just attack him immediately, but he'll talk to you and you can go with him. He does have the key to the next area though, so you either have to fight him at the end or he has to, unfortunately, meet his end by one of the werewolves. I suppose one of the champions would also be Karstag himself. And the fight with Karstag is interesting. Karstag, unfortunately, has something that a lot of enemies in Morrowind have, which is a reflect chance. A 50% reflect chance, in fact. I started off using my paralysis silver longsword, but half of the time I got the enchantment off, it would paralyze me instead of him, which is really bad, because then he would just hit me twice and I would fall over. I only had it happen once where I realized that's what happened, because you play Morrowind long enough and you realize a lot of endgame enemies just have reflect. Sort of a second nature thing. So I just switched over to the fire sword that I have. He is weak to fire, but again, with the reflect, I wound up taking a lot of fire damage on my own, but the sword had a high enough damage that it would stagger him pretty effectively. After defeating Karstag, Hircine makes his entrance, and you have a decision to make. I'm going to say that Hircine wants me to select an attribute that I think personifies a hunter best. This choice will affect the final fight. Which choice do I pick between strength, speed, and guile? So it wants me to go for strength. Strength, Hircine becomes slower, but hits harder. I deal slightly less damage relative to him, but he is easier to maneuver around. And that was very correct on the computer's part, because Hircine's aspect of strength is very slow, and the attack pattern is very predictable. It's almost like fighting any other bearer on the island. It just does a little bit more damage if its attacks connect. So you can avoid this just by strafing back and forth, or side to side. I like back and forth more. I just feel like it's easier to land my hits, especially with a slash weapon like this. But there's very little danger in this fight. Had I gone for Guile, I would have been a lot more nervous because Hircine's spear has reach, which is hard to deal with, especially with a weapon that doesn't reach as far. I also agree with the AI. I think this is a very fitting choice for Bjorn to make for what aspect of the hunter that he believes is the most valuable. But we get a Hunter's Amulet of Strength, gives you more strength and fortifies attack, and the key in order to leave. I get my recall spell ready, and I exit the ruins. And with that, I have completed the mainline quest in Bloodmoon. I'm going to talk to Korst and just make sure there's nothing else I have to do. He does mention that it's sad to lose Tharstan like that because he was a good chief, but a new one will replace him. Alright, and that'll do it. I'm going to let it know that I defeated the aspect of strength, and I'm going to ask it a trick question to see if it responds. I'm going to see if there's anything next. The village is now safe. The werewolf threat has ended. Korst and the Skull Elders will praise you as champion of the hunt. Solstheim exploration. I can explore, which I'm not going to. That's it. Very cool. There's nothing left. I suppose Bjorn is just going to join the skull, and he's just going to live among them. So there's still one more of these that I can do for Morrowind, because the Tribunal expansion is also pretty big. I could probably ask the AI to tell me how to play through that. We'll see how that turns out. That'll be all for this video. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I do appreciate likes. And if you enjoyed this kind of video, please think about subscribing. You don't have to, but if this is the kind of content you like, I will try to put one of these videos out every other week, sometime between Thursday and Sunday. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.